My greedy relatives cut me off when I refused to split my inheritance, laughing, "You'll come crawling back." Years later, they showed up begging for help, crying, "We're family. You can't turn us away." I smiled, crossed my arms, and said, "Funny, because that's exactly what you did to me." Their faces fell as I closed the door. I was never supposed to inherit anything. That was the unspoken rule in my family. My father was a self-made man. He didn't come from money. He built his trucking business from the ground up, starting with a single second-hand truck and working until his hands were cracked and raw. I grew up watching him push through every setback, every recession, every betrayal from so-called business partners who turned out to be leeches. And I was the only one who stuck by him. I was the one who spent summers working in his garage instead of playing video games. I was the one who ran errands for him when he got too busy. And when he got sick, I was the one who took him to every doctor's appointment, managed his medication, made sure he had the best care possible. Not my aunts, not my uncles, not my cousins. But the second he passed, they all crawled out of whatever holes they'd been hiding in. The lawyer's office was packed that day. My dad had a decent estate, not billionaire-level wealth, but definitely more than my greedy relatives ever expected. They all showed up dressed in their Sunday best, probably thinking they were about to get a fat payday. They weren't prepared for what actually happened. The lawyer cleared his throat and started reading. The house? Mine. The business? Mine. The investments? Mine. Everything. You could hear a pin drop. Then, chaos. "What the hell?" my aunt screeched. "That can't be right." My uncle was already red in the face. "There must be a mistake. We're family. We should split it." My cousin Mark, the golden child of the family, crossed his arms and laughed. "You're kidding, right? Dad wouldn't do that to us." The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Your father made his wishes very clear." That's when they turned on me. "Come on," my aunt cooed, putting on her sweetest fake smile. "You don't need all that money. We should share it like family." I just stared at her. "I'm honoring his wishes," I said simply. Her smile disappeared so fast you'd think I'd slapped it off her face. "Don't be selfish," she snapped. "You think you're better than us now?" "You'll regret this," my uncle said, shaking his head. "Running a business isn't easy. When you fail, don't come crying to us." Mark smirked. "Yeah, you'll come crawling back." One by one, they left. And that was it. They cut me off completely. I won't lie. The first year was brutal. I had no idea what I was doing. My father had left me the business, but not a manual on how to run it. I made mistakes. I lost money. There were days when I sat in my office, staring at invoices, wondering if they had been right. Maybe I was in over my head. But I pushed through. I learned how to hire the right people. I found mentors who actually wanted to help, not just take advantage of me. I studied every part of the business, every contract, every deal. And slowly, things started turning around. By the end of the first year, I had expanded. By the third year, I had tripled the size of the company. By the fifth year, I wasn't just running a trucking business, I had logistics, real estate investments, and distribution. And my relatives? They started hearing things. Little comments from mutual friends. "Oh, yeah, I saw OP's company on the news. Looks like they're doing great. I heard OP bought another warehouse. Must be rolling in money." And suddenly, my phone started ringing again. The first call came from Mark. "Haha, hey, cousin. It's been a while." I didn't say anything. "So, listen, I was thinking, maybe we should catch up? Grab some drinks?" I let him ramble for a bit before I asked, "Why are you really calling?" Silence. Then, a forced chuckle. "Come on, can't a guy just want to reconnect with his family?" I hung up. Then came my aunt. "Sweetheart, I just wanted to see how you're doing." I sighed. "What do you want?" She huffed. "Well, since you asked, we've hit some rough patches. Your uncle lost a lot of money in a bad investment. And, well, the house is, on the market." I leaned back in my chair. "I see." She cleared her throat. "So we were thinking, since you've been doing so well, maybe you could—" I cut her off. "No," a beat of silence. Then, her voice turned cold. "You're heartless." "No," I said. "I'm just treating you the way you treated me." I hung up. But they weren't done. A few weeks later, I heard a knock at my front door. I opened it, and there they were. My uncle, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Mark, shifting from foot to foot, looking everywhere but at me. And my aunt, forcing a smile like she wasn't on the verge of tears. "We need to talk," my uncle said. I crossed my arms. "About what?" My aunt let out a shaky laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, let's not do this. We're family." I said nothing. "We need help," Mark blurted out. "Things have been bad. We lost a lot. We're struggling. And we know we were wrong. But we're family. You can't turn us away." I just looked at them. because I already knew how this was going to end. I stood in the doorway, staring at the people who had once laughed in my face, who had called me selfish, who had cut me off the second I refused to give them what they wanted. Now they were standing in front of me, looking small, looking desperate. "We need help," Mark repeated, his voice tight. "Things have been rough." My uncle cleared his throat. "We know we made mistakes, okay? We let money get between us. But we're still family." I didn't say anything. My aunt stepped forward, putting a hand on my arm. "Sweetheart, we don't have anywhere else to go. You don't have to give us money, just let us borrow it. We'll pay you back." I raised an eyebrow. "The way you paid back my father when he bailed you out of debt the first time? Or the second? Or the third?" Her smile twitched. "This is different," she said quickly. "This time we really need it." I crossed my arms. "You told me I'd come crawling back when I failed," I said. "Now look at you." "What happened?" Mark's jaw tightened. "Does it matter? We're here now." I leaned against the door frame. "Oh, it matters to me." My uncle exhaled sharply, like he was about to start yelling, but Mark put a hand on his shoulder and spoke first. "The investment fell through," he muttered. "What investment?" I asked. My uncle scowled, like he hated admitting it. "We bought into a real estate deal. A guy promised big returns, said we'd double our money in 2 years. We put everything into it, our savings, the house, even some loans." I smirked. "So, a scam." "It wasn't a scam," my aunt snapped, then faltered. "At least, we didn't think it was." I shook my head. Of course, they had thrown their money into something stupid. It was always the same with them. They lived like they had endless wealth when, in reality, they were drowning in debt. They never learned. "So," I said slowly, "you lost everything and now you're here." My uncle nodded stiffly. Mark shoved his hands into his pockets. "Look, we get it, okay? We treated you like garbage. We should have never cut you off. But you're doing great. We just need a little help to get back on our feet." "And what do I get in return?" I asked. They blinked. "We'll pay you back," my uncle said quickly. I laughed. "That's not what I asked." Their silence told me everything I needed to know. They had nothing to offer me. No skills. No assets. No leverage. And they knew it. Then I saw it. The way Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. The way my aunt kept glancing at my house, like she was scouting it. The way my uncle's hands were clenched, not in frustration, but in anticipation. They weren't just here for money. They wanted something else. I kept my expression blank. "How much do you need?" My aunt perked up immediately. "Just enough to, I need a number," I interrupted. They looked at each other. Then Mark cleared his throat. 50,000. I stared at them. 50,000? Mark winced. "It would cover some of the debt, and no," I cut in. "That's not why you're here." Their faces shifted, just for a second. Then my uncle forced a chuckle. "What are you talking about?" I took a step forward. "You didn't come here just for money. You wouldn't have swallowed your pride for that." More silence. Then Mark's jaw tightened. "Fine. You're right." He hesitated, then let out a slow breath. "We didn't just lose money. We're losing the house." My aunt put a hand on her chest, like she was about to faint. "They're evicting us," she whispered. "We have nowhere to go." There it was. They weren't just asking for money. They wanted a place to stay. I crossed my arms. "How long have you known about this?" More hesitation. Then my uncle muttered, "A couple months." I tilted my head. "So you only came to me now?" Mark exhaled sharply. "We thought we could fix it. We thought maybe the bank would give us more time. But the foreclosure is happening next week." I stared at them, my mind working fast. If their house was going into foreclosure next week, that meant they'd known about this for a while. And yet, they only came to me now? That's when it clicked. They didn't just want help. They had exhausted every other option. The only reason they were here was because I was the last person on their list. Which meant they still didn't respect me. They still saw me as the backup plan. They thought I was stupid enough to bail them out. I let out a slow breath. "You want to move in here?" My aunt brightened. "Just for a little while. We wouldn't take up much space. And this house is so big," I held up a hand. No, silence. Then my uncle's face darkened. "You're serious?" I shrugged. "You told me 5 years ago that I'd come crawling back. Funny how that worked out." Mark took a step forward. "Come on, man. We're family." I let out a humorless chuckle. "Oh, now we're family?" A flicker of something crossed his face, guilt, maybe. Or just annoyance that his manipulation wasn't working. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, fine. You don't want to help us. Fine. But what about Mom?" He gestured toward my aunt. "She's your aunt. She practically raised you. You're really going to let her live on the street?" My aunt immediately put on her most pitiful expression, like she hadn't spent years treating me like I was beneath her. I didn't fall for it. She didn't seem to care when I had no one, I said. Her face fell. Mark exhaled sharply, turning to my uncle. This is a waste of time. But my uncle wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking past me. At my house. Something in his expression shifted. Cold calculation. A plan forming. And that's when I knew this wasn't over. For a moment, nobody spoke. My uncle was still staring at my house. My aunt's face was pinched like she was about to cry. Mark clenched his jaw, looking like he wanted to punch something. Then my uncle let out a low chuckle. "All right," he said. "I see how it is." He turned to leave. My aunt gasped. "Wait, we can still know, we're done here," he snapped. "Come on." Mark hesitated, but then followed. My aunt shot me one last pitiful look before she trailed after them. I watched them pile into their car and drive away. I should have felt relief. But something didn't sit right. The way my uncle looked at my house. The way Mark's anger had melted into something else. I closed the door, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. It happened 3 days later. I was working late at my home office, reviewing some contracts, when I heard something. A thud. Then another. Coming from the backyard. I stood up slowly, heart pounding. My security system should have been on. No one should have been back there. I grabbed the baseball bat I kept near my desk and moved toward the sliding glass door that led to the patio. Then I saw it. A shadow. Moving. Someone was trying to break in. Adrenaline surged through me. I flipped on the backyard floodlights. And there they were. Mark. With a crowbar. Standing at my back door like he was about to pry it open. He froze like a deer caught in headlights. Then he turned and bolted. I threw open the door, rage burning through me. "Are you kidding me?" Mark didn't look back. He jumped over the fence like a man who'd done it 100 times before and disappeared into the night. I stood there, gripping the bat so tightly my hands ached. I should have called the cops. But I already knew how that would play out. Mark would lie. My aunt would cry. My uncle would claim it was a misunderstanding. I needed proof. So instead, I made a call. The next morning, I upgraded my security system. More cameras. Motion detectors. Smart locks. The works. Then, I waited. It didn't take long. 2 nights later, my new cameras caught them. Mark wasn't alone this time. My uncle was with him. And they weren't just snooping. They were trying to disable my security system. I watched from my phone, live streaming the footage from the safety of my locked bedroom. I had them. I called the cops. By the time the police arrived, Mark and my uncle were still in my yard, arguing in hushed voices. They never saw it coming. The officers tackled them to the ground before they could even run. I stepped outside, arms crossed, watching as they were handcuffed. Mark thrashed. "This is a mistake. We weren't." "Shut up, Mark," my uncle growled. The officer turned to me. "You the homeowner?" I nodded. "Yep. And I have everything on camera." Mark's face drained of color. My uncle's jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might crack. The officers took them away. I thought that was the end of it. I thought jail time would be enough to scare them off. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I got a call. It was my aunt. Sobbing. "You ruined our lives," she wailed. "How could you do this to family?" I let her rant for a while, then asked, "How long did they get?" Silence. Then, bitterly, "They're out on bail." I let out a breath. Of course they were. "Stay away from my house," I said flatly. "You're a monster," she spat. "You think you're better than us? You think this is over?" A chill ran down my spine. Something about the way she said it. Like a promise. Then the line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heart pounding. No, this wasn't over. They weren't just angry. They were desperate. And desperate people do stupid things. I needed to be ready. Because whatever they had planned next, I had a feeling it was going to be worse. I didn't sleep much after that phone call. I knew my family well enough to understand that when my aunt said, "You think this is over," she meant it. They had already tried to break into my house. They had already lied, manipulated, and stolen. What was next? I took extra precautions. I had a security team do a full sweep of my property. I reinforced my locks. I even started carrying a concealed weapon, something I never thought I'd have to do. But even with all of that, I wasn't ready for what they did next. 2 weeks later, I got served. Mark and my uncle were suing me. For wrongful arrest. For emotional distress. For defamation. I actually laughed when I read the papers. Then I got a call from my lawyer. "They're claiming you lured them onto your property to frame them," he said, irritation clear in his voice. "They're saying you manipulated the security footage, that they were just trying to talk things out." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Are you kidding me?" I wish. It was ridiculous. It was infuriating. But it was also dangerous. Because even though the case had no real merit, it meant I had to deal with them. Again. It meant court dates. Legal fees. Stress. And worst of all, it meant they weren't done trying to ruin me. The day of the hearing, they showed up in full performance mode. My aunt was wearing all black, sniffling dramatically like she had just come from a funeral. My uncle had his hands folded in front of him, looking somber and regretful. And Mark? Mark was smirking, like he thought he had already won. The courtroom was small, mostly empty. Just a few people sitting in the back, other cases waiting to be heard, reporters scribbling notes, and a couple of my employees who had come to support me. The judge called us forward. Mark's lawyer stood up first. Your Honor, my client has suffered tremendous emotional damage due to the defendant's actions. He was tricked, manipulated, and humiliated in front of his family and community. I almost choked. Humiliated? Mark had tried to break into my house, and now he was acting like a victim? I glanced at my lawyer, who gave me a subtle nod. Let them talk. Let them dig their own grave. And they did. Mark and my uncle testified, telling a story so twisted it barely resembled the truth. They claimed they had just been stopping by my house to make amends. They said I had been waiting for them, that I had set them up to make them look like criminals. And the best part? Mark even managed to squeeze out a few fake tears. When it was my turn, my lawyer stood. Your Honor, I'd like to present video evidence. Mark's face dropped. We played the footage. Crystal clear. HD. Mark and my uncle sneaking around my house, trying to disable my security system. The judge's expression hardened. By the time the video finished, you could hear a pin drop. My lawyer turned to Mark. You said you were there to talk, correct? Mark swallowed hard. Yeah. With a crowbar? Silence. Then, my lawyer turned back to the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to motion for immediate dismissal. The judge barely even hesitated. Case dismissed. And gentlemen, he turned to Mark and my uncle, his eyes cold. If I were you, I'd rethink any further legal action before you make an even bigger mess of your lives. Mark's face was red. My uncle looked ready to explode. My aunt, still playing the victim, let out a small gasp like she was shocked that their plan had backfired. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. I thought that was it. But I was wrong. They had one last move to play. 2 days later, I got a call from one of my employees. Boss, you need to see this. He sent me a link. My stomach turned as I clicked it. It was an article, written by some trashy gossip site. The headline? Chicago business owner abandons family in their time of need. Sources say he enjoys watching them suffer. They had sold a sob story to the media. It was full of lies. They painted themselves as the loving family I had turned my back on. They cried about how I had stolen the inheritance, how I had changed and become cold and cruel. They even mentioned my father, said he would have been ashamed of me. I saw red. I knew what they were trying to do. They couldn't take me down legally. So they were trying to ruin my reputation. I could have ignored it, but I was done playing defense. I called a press conference. Not an interview. Not a statement. A full-blown conference. I laid everything out. The break-in. The lawsuit. The way they had cut me off the moment they realized I wouldn't hand over money. And then I released all the evidence. The security footage. The court documents. Even old text messages from Mark where he had mocked me behind my back while still pretending to be my cousin. It spread like wildfire. Within hours, the article that had painted me as a villain was deleted. Within days, my relatives were the ones getting harassed online. People called them leeches, thieves, con artists. Businesses they had tried to get credit from? Dropped them. People they had scammed? Came forward with their own stories. And just like that, their entire lives fell apart. A month later, my phone rang. It was my aunt. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to hear it. She was crying. You ruined us, she sobbed. We have nothing left. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, I felt peace. I took a deep breath and said, now you know how it feels. Then I hung up, and I never looked back. I didn't get joy out of destroying them. I didn't celebrate their downfall, but I wasn't sorry either, because at the end of the day, they had done it to themselves. And me? I walked away free. Free from their lies. Free from their manipulation. Free from the family that had never really been my family at all. And that was worth more than any inheritance.